Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. So I was doing a little research because I've noticed there's a ton of fear-mongering out there with regards to impending nuclear holocaust and everything else. And I got to tell you, no one knows what's going to happen tomorrow. I find it highly unlikely that anybody's going to have the gonads to press the red button and annihilate everybody. You know, to me, that seems a little bit over the top. However, I did highlight that billionaires are preparing for some sort of event. Forbes magazine recently published a cataclysmic map of what is perceived as some sort of pole reversal or pole shift event that could very well take place. There are plenty of things out there that are of concern. Now, anybody out there that is concerned of a nuclear attack, I can tell you that there's been a lot of activity out there to prepare for that and any other sort of attack. We have continuity of government laws in place. We have deep underground military bases all over the country, but primarily in places like Denver, outside of Washington, D.C., all over the country, where they're connected by deep underground high-speed rail systems. They were used to transport nuclear missiles during the Cold War, and probably are still to some extent, but are more so used for high-speed personnel transport and transport of material, in a fast way and in an undetectable way. You know, something that when you hear oftentimes of, North Korea just launched another, had a missile test, and, we were tracking it because they had mobile launchers and everything else. Well, see, here in the United States, we don't really need that because we have a deep underground rail system that takes care of that. So you don't have mobile launchers driving down the highway anymore. Even though that's what the interstate highway system, its intended purpose was, while these tunnels were being made, Eisenhower put forth this initiative to put the highway system in place so we could transport these weapons all over the place. But there's a lot of stuff. Well, I did some research. FEMA has what they call national planning scenarios. And you can go check it out at FEMA.org. And they kind of give you these scenarios that they prepare for. This is what FEMA sees as the imminent threats here. And this started back in November of 2003. They developed these national planning scenarios to, I guess, prepare themselves for what they see to be as credible threats to the United States and to their partners, right? So out of this, there are 15 national planning scenarios. I'm going to go over some of them right now. This is what FEMA sees as being the threat. They see explosive attacks or bombing using improvised explosive devices. They also see nuclear attacks as being a threat via improvised nuclear device or even a radiological attack by a radiological dispersal device or a dirty bomb. FEMA also sees it biological attacks being a threat, and they discuss and have scenarios for the following pathogens: aerosol anthrax, the Black Plague, which is what we've seen here recently in the mainstream media. This idea that, ISIS, they're up against the wall, and there's evidence now that that they've weaponized the plague, and at any time there's going to be an attack. You might want to just, I don't know how you can prepare for the plague, but, if you can put antibiotics away or something like that, you might want to think about doing that if you haven't. They also talk about food contamination being a threat. Perhaps a terrorist attack by food contamination. And also foreign animal disease. Importing a invasive species that could wipe out some of the food chain. I mean, these are things that FEMA actually prepares for. Also, chemical attack they see as a threat via blistering agent, toxic industrial chemicals, nerve agents, or even a chlorine tank explosion. And finally, we have pandemic influenza. We see that every year being a threat. Cyber attack, that's one of the newest ones. And then natural disaster, major earthquakes, major hurricanes. I'd like to add Yellowstone into the mix only because to this day, Yellowstone is still quite active with over 1,200 earthquakes that have hit the Yellowstone region so far in this swarm. So it's interesting that we see FEMA with these national level scenarios that they openly exercise for and plan for. And so, you know, a lot of these things, one of the primary focuses that we see, especially on the foreign policy side, is, well, a lot of this stuff can be delivered via intercontinental ballistic missile. You know, Kim Jong-un doesn't necessarily have to deliver a nuke on target. Why, he can do an EMP device. You'd only have to get in the general area for that. He can do a chemical or biological attack. If you do that, then all you've got to do is get it in a general area. And through dispersal, you can affect a wide area or wide swath. You know, if we take a look at it from the idea of a false flag attack, all you've got to do is explode a missile in the air and then take your chemtrails, right? You've already got a chemtrail program. You've already acclimated your masses to accepting the fact that they get sprayed on every day with their aerosol barium and aerosol aluminum. So what's to say they just don't change what they spray one day? And they simulate an attack, if you will, from North Korea. Or let's just say they say it's North Korea, but in reality it's not. And how would you, on the ground in the United States or in the UK or over in Europe or down in Australia, how would you know any different that it came from your own government or it came from North Korea or some of our state enemies that are out there? And boy, we've made a lot of them. You know? So here's some things that FEMA says you should have on hand and ready as an emergency supply kit, if you will, to mitigate any sort of problems should something like this occur. They say, first of all, you want to make sure that you have your prescription medications and your glasses. A lot of people don't realize that you should have a spare set of glasses if you don't have contact lenses. Even then, you should always have a spare set of glasses ready to go, because should things go south and society, you know, go off the rails, I don't think you're going to find many optometrists in business. Therefore, it's going to be kind of hard to get prescription glasses, bifocals, trifocals, things like that. You should have an extra set on hand. They say store infant formula and diapers, also pet food and extra water for your pet, and any important family documents, such as copies of insurance policies, identifications, bank account records, all in waterproof and fireproof portable containers. Also, you should always have some cash and traveler's checks and change on hand, they say, because you never know. Although, in a SHTF scenario, I can't imagine paper currency having much worth. But again, it's something good to have. Also, sleeping bags or a warm blanket for each person. And you should also considering additional extra bedding, especially if it happens and you live in a cold climate. If power goes out for an extended period of time, or you lose power to any, or lose services to your house, you could be without heating, fuel, and you might have to bundle up. Also, make sure you have complete changes of clothing and have extra pants and shoes on hand, especially if you live in cold weather climates, because very important. Also, have enough household bleach on hand, because you can dilute, if you have water, you can take 9 parts water to 1 part bleach. You can use it as disinfectant, or in an emergency, you can actually treat water using household bleach using 16 drops of regular household liquid bleach per gallon, as long as you're using standard bleach. Also, fire extinguisher. You should have waterproof matches. Another thing, a good old friend of mine, A.C. Griffith, one of the founding fathers that exposed chemtrails back in the day, used to tell the old adage, tampons and toilet paper, Joe, tampons and toilet paper. Personal hygiene items and feminine supplies are absolutely crucial to put away so that, God forbid, something happen, you're not using oak leaves and everything else on your private parts. Just saying. Paper and pencils Also, books, games, and puzzles, just in case you're down for an extended period of time. And then, of course, all of your first aid and food supplies, and especially self-defense, guns and ammunition. My friends, brass and lead in some sort of scenario like that is far more valuable than gold and silver. Now, while you should probably have some, brass and lead, I would think, is your primary means of survival and any sort of barter transactions at that point, you know, because especially if you live in a populated area, things are going to get real fast. So while there is a lot of fear-mongering out there, you can certainly take little steps to prepare, and they will certainly go a long way to give you an edge should that day arrive. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day.